Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Marco Dure Show. It is Monday, November 24th, 2025. Can't believe next week is December already. Thank you for tuning in to today's show to hear all the relevant groundbreaking news here in America and around the world, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please don't forget to follow this show on whatever platform you may view it on, rate it, follow it, share it with whomever needs to hear the truth so we can make thinking great again in America together. Hope everyone's ready for the best hour radio has to offer, uncensored and ready to go as always. Let's start the week off and Monday off the right way. My favorite day of the week. Let's get down to brass tacks. My first story today is about the resignation of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I wanted to comment on that before we get into our news stories today. I was a little bit shocked about hearing this just before the weekend hit. And, you know, she's been at odds with President Trump as of late. He's referred to her as a traitor, as wacky, as Marjorie Traitor Greene. And he said that he would endorse a challenger against her when she ran for re-election next year. So I don't know if that had something to do with it. It's a lot of stuff going on right now with politics. But here it is. Let's get into it. Obviously, we know she's from Georgia. She was a very loyal supporter, turned critic of President Trump as of late, who faced political retribution if she sought re-election now. On Friday, she then resigned from Congress. She'll be resigning in January the 5th of this next coming year. She put out a 10-minute video explaining her decision, and she said she didn't want her congressional district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primer against me and the president we all fought for. You know, she's taken many interesting stances on all this, but she's always been a stalwart patriot. I have to tell you this. Now, whether you agree with her on the Epstein files or not, or with healthcare or not, she is a fighter for America. Any way you look at it. And she's been criticized by certain aspects of the right, of course, by the left as well, many, many times. We saw her going at it with Jasmine Crockett, always. She was one of the only members of Congress to visit January 6 protesters when they were being imprisoned in the D.C. gulags. Frequently questioned why American taxpayers are supporting Ukraine, nuclear Israel, and other foreign nations as well. All these things that are many people's concerns right now. Now, this resignation comes as a falling out between her and President Trump, I believe, in recent months. She obviously threatened the release of the Epstein files, which she voted for, along with the foreign policy we're seeing now, and, of course, healthcare, which I think affects many people in her district in northwestern Georgia. But Trump went on these tirades about her, this and that. I mean, all really ridiculous when you really think about it. But she was one of the most visible and vocal supporters of Make America Great Again when she ran for office in 2020. And again, she embraced many of these policies unapologetically. And again, this break, this fissure, if you will, over these stalwart conservatives, particularly the most ardent base, is diminishing right now. You're seeing a crack in Make America Great Again with the departure of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And we only have a few more of these leaders left. Thomas Massie, Rand Paul, maybe a couple others. They're not this established Republican-type Congress leaders. Anyways, she went on to write this, leave this video for us. It's about 11 minutes or so. But I want you to hear about how she starts this off. And again, it's very important to understand this. Because, again, it sheds light on who she is. Now, people are going to go, well, she's leaving on the 5th because she gets a pension that day. She meets her pension requirements. Well, first of all, she's worth about $25 million because of her business ventures. That's number one. And I know because I searched where she's getting her money from. Who's giving her money? She's not getting any money from APAC or any of these other PACs or anything like that. And her business, her construction business that her family runs is successful. And let's understand something too. Just because someone's worth many millions of dollars does not mean that's all just in liquidity. Doesn't mean she has $25 million on cash at hand. It has to do with investments, has to do with real estate, equity, and things like that. And just because your business is worth that much money doesn't mean you have that much cash at hand. So let's understand all this right now. And by the way, she's only getting in her pension, because of how long she's served and her age, somewhere around $45,000 a year. It's not a lot of money, especially in this day and age with the way the dollar's been devalued. So these people are, oh, look how greedy she is. Look at this. She's just like Nancy Pelosi with the money she's... Come on. It's just ridiculousness. These people just don't like her because she stands up to President Trump. They don't like that. They don't want to see that for some reason. I don't know why. Wouldn't you, as a patriot, want to see somebody challenge somebody else? At least show that they're a free thinker, for God's sakes. She's not doing this to bring down President Trump. She's doing it because she wants truth. She wants to make sure there's not a sick blackmailing ring going on in this country relating to the Epstein files, and that the victims have justice. Who could be arguing that? Except a pathetic creep trying to cover things up. I've talked to you about this before. The way President Trump handled this was atrocious. Calling it a Democratic hoax, saying there is no black book, there is no files, there's nothing to release. Now all of a sudden there's an investigation now. So it was handled improperly. That's the only way you could say that. Like, I can't see you say, well, he handled it really great. No, he didn't. He ran on releasing these files, this information. We all got behind that. We said, listen, nobody should be blackmailed. And again, nobody who's committing sexual abuse against minors, or any woman for that matter, or any man for that matter, should be allowed to participate in Congress or anywhere else in society. And she stood behind that, and she backed that, and she still backs that. Everyone else goes, wait, what's going on here? Oh, there's no black, it's just Jeffrey Epstein and his girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. That's it. That's all it was. That's a Democratic hoax. Really? You ran on a Democratic hoax? I mean, like her or love her or hate her or not, she at least stands by her values. She stood behind this position. And that's why her and Thomas Massie, among others, Nancy Mace, I think there's somebody else, a couple other Republicans as well, I forget who, got behind this and got this passed. This was a campaign promise. So who could possibly be against this? And everyone always points, well, she's implicating Trump. She's not implicating Trump's in any of this. It's absolutely ridiculous people say these types of things. Just to smear her, of course. Before they loved her, now they want to smear her because she, challenges President Trump's position on something? Challenges where we give our foreign aid money to? Whom we back? And how much we back? That's our money, is it not? You as a taxpayer should be involved in this. How does this benefit us? How many billions of dollars should we give to Ukraine, to Israel, to various other countries in South America, Africa, Asia? How much? How much is enough, folks? We don't know. Nobody knows. Anyways, this was part of it. I'm not going to play the whole thing, of course. But I want to play just this part because, again, it just shows you who Marjorie Taylor Greene actually is. Let's play it.
No matter which way the political pendulum swings, Republican or Democrat, nothing ever gets better for the common American man or woman. The debt goes higher, corporate and global interests remain Washington's sweethearts, American jobs continue to be replaced, whether it's by illegal labor or legal labor by visas or just shipped overseas. Small businesses continue to be swallowed by big corporations. Americans' hard-earned tax dollars always fund foreign wars, foreign aid, and foreign interest. And the spending power of the dollar continues to decline. The average American family can no longer survive on a single breadwinner's income, as both parents have to work in order to simply survive. And today, many in my children's generation feel hopeless for their future and don't think they will ever realize the American dream.
Who could argue with that? What was wrong with what she's saying right now? She's saying everything that is exactly the truth. I've been talking to you about all this. Foreign wars, devaluing currency, future generations. Why are we talking about this? This is what we should be focusing on. This affects us greatly. Everything she's saying there is absolutely true. To a T. And yet nobody's getting behind this. Again, it makes no sense to me at all. One thing I want to say, too, before I move on, she says something very important at the very end. She says, my kids' generation, I can imagine her kids are probably teens, early 20s. She's not very old. She's saying that their generation doesn't believe they have any type of future in achieving the American dream. And that's why you're seeing this shift to people on the left who are offering everything under the sun. This is why you're seeing that. They're saying, well, since I can't really afford my rent, hey, you're going to pay for it? Great. It'll leave me somebody to maybe do something else. Maybe get one of those jobs they're promising us at some point in my life that are going away by AI, outsourcing to, obviously, other foreign markets and what have you. Thank you to Bill Clinton for doing all that. This is the problem, though. We should be focusing on the American dream. We should be focusing on what's here at home. We should be focusing on the devaluing of the dollar. We should be protecting American citizens, not giving jobs away to illegal aliens or H-1B visa holders, which President Trump is all of a sudden behind again. Because they want the cheap labor, of course. That's why Republicans like it. And, of course, the Democrats love it because they get more of a voting bloc out of that. So who's going to stand up for us? Who's going to stand up for the little guy? Is anybody? Or does it not matter anymore? That's a question you need to ask yourself. So she's spot on, I think. And again, it was a pretty good little speech that she gave here. But she spoke, I think, honestly and truly as she usually always has. So again, it's a big blow to MAGA. Is MAGA dead? I don't know. It's certainly on life support, though, right now. When you have a big voting bloc, as you saw come out for President Trump in 2024, all of a sudden in 2025, come out for a Mamdani, for Mikey Sherrill, for Abigail Spamburgers. That's what I call her, Spamburgers. She's a fraud. Obviously in California, voting to redistrict to get more seats, of course, which, again, who knows if that was even a election with any integrity. I sometimes question all that. So this is California. We got to ask ourselves, what are we leaving behind for the next generation? What are you leaving behind for your children? That's the big thing. What are you leaving behind? What legacy are you leaving behind? That you're voting for all this crap that goes elsewhere. No, a foreign country needs something, bam, it's there in a second, folks. Yeah, go look at our inner cities. Go look at any of our major cities, for that matter. Go look at how they look. Go look at some of the newly cities recently created and renovated in India, in China, even in the Middle East, parts of the Middle East. Go look at Kazakhstan. Go look at the UAE. Go look at all these cities. They're not crawling with homelessness and filth and drug use and what have you. Why are American cities just fine to be destroyed? Can be dirty, potholes everywhere, graffiti on this side of the, freeway walls. Haven't been renovated, street signs destroyed, faded. Public schools are a mess. They can't be funded, apparently, but we can fund foreign wars nonstop. That money will get there in no time. I mean, the Fed can't print it fast enough. So you've got to ask yourself, what is she saying? Why do they view her as a threat? And I thought it was funny, too. Congressman Randy Fine went out and said, one anti-Semite down, one to go. Oh, really, jackass? She's never even said she's anti-Israel. She's anti-giving money away to a foreign nation that's committing a genocide in the Middle East. Now, I know some of you will argue and scoff at that and roll your eyes. But all the facts, if you actually look at it, point to that way. You can listen to the quotes of people in the Knesset, in the government, what have you. I was arguing with someone about this the other day. They're like, oh, they never said anything like that. I go, really? They never said anything about genocide? Are you kidding me? It's unbelievable. We as Americans should not be behind something like that. And that type of treatment, of course. So, to me, She has every right to say what she wants to say about a foreign government if we're funding their entire military. I'll just put it to you that way. And again, we have the freedom of speech to criticize things that we see at hand. Nobody could look at Gaza and say, you know what, these are all targeted strikes. They're all just intended to hit Hamas. Come on. I mean, it's just ridiculousness. I can't believe it. Again, we ignore this. And again, I keep hearing this. They're like, no way it's a genocide. Why would they categorize that as genocide? Just because they hate Israel. Because they hate Jews. It's so ridiculous. It's so utterly ridiculous. I mean, here we go. Listen to Bezalel Smotrich. Here, I'll pull it up for you since people don't believe me. Now, you tell me if this is somebody that is caring about the innocent civilians in Gaza. You tell me. April 2025, he insisted not even a grain of wheat will enter Gaza, reinforcing Israel's blockade of food, medicine, and fuel. This came after a ceasefire phase that ended. In August of 2025, Smotrich called for cutting off water, electricity, and food supplies entirely, saying, those who don't die by gunfire will die of hunger. Now, again, he's the finance minister. Pretty shocking remarks, right? Obviously, this is odd to hear from a high-up leader in the Israeli government saying these types of things. And you say, well, it's just one person. It doesn't mean that it's true. Well, folks, then why would you see sickly people in the Gaza Strip? You could look up information on their AI drones, Gospel, Lavender, creating AI simulations, getting people to leave these encampment areas to the sounds of so-called women screaming and then machine gun them. And you can't tell me Hamas is in every single one of these buildings now. Come on. It's absolutely ridiculous. And of course, they talk about using it as human shields. Come on. I mean, it's just really, really ridiculous. Again, I tell you this not because I like it or I'm glad that it's happening or it's, haha, look at what this side has done, look what the other side has done. We have Ben Gvir coming out saying this in May. The only aid that should enter Gaza is for the purpose of voluntary migration, effectively calling for the displacement of Palestinians rather than relief. Yep. He said food and aid deposits should be bombed. Yep. He attacked Prime Minister Netanyahu as morally bankrupt for allowing Arab countries to send food into Gaza. Does this sound like a group of people that care about what's happening on the ground? Or that they would care if a loss of life occurred? Again, I don't tell you to say that this is a Jewish position, but this is the position of people in the government of Israel. And that's what she's criticizing. She's not criticizing Jewish people. Again, this is a serious issue. And again, if we are funding everything their military does, it also falls on us too. And we've got to acknowledge that. So again, I don't tell you these things because I like that they're happening or it's like a gotcha moment. It's just, this is the reality. And I bring you the truth in all these matters. Okay. So that's enough on Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's move on to the Jerusalem Post. I saw this over the weekend. This story just kind of dropped recently, and I didn't have time to go over it last week, so I wanted to go over it today. But it says ex-spy Jonathan Pollard is meeting now with U.S. envoy Mike Huckabee, whom held a secret meeting at the U.S. Jerusalem Embassy. Now, some of you are saying, well, what do I care? Right? He's a convicted Israeli-American spy. So what, Jerez? Come on. What's the big deal? Oh, well, it is a big deal. Who is Jonathan Pollard, by the way? So Pollard, who was this former Navy intelligence analyst, he took tens of thousands of classified top-secret documents and gave them to Israel's Mossad. Actually, he took hundreds of thousands of documents, to be honest with you, who in return gave them over to the Soviet Union. This is back in the mid-1980s, in 1985. And I want to remind everyone that's listening, where this took place in the mid-1980s at the height of the Cold War, and of course our arms race between the United States and the Soviet Union. Now, again, these documents contained National Security Administration manuals, satellite images, data on Soviet and Arab military compatibilities. And there were so many documents that the then Secretary of Defense, Cap Weinberger, he was actually from California too, by the way, said that there was roughly 360,000, oh my God, documents given to Israel, and it could fit in a 6x6x10 storage unit. And even said in his sentencing via memorandum that the scale of espionage was the greatest compromise of U.S. intelligence in history. And he was paid very well for it, too, by the way, for being an Israeli spy. Got $50,000 in cash up front, which would be about $154,000 today. See how the dollar's been devalued, folks? I don't make this stuff up. I just tell you the truth. You know that. But also got another $300,000 deposited in a Swiss bank account just for him. His wife at the time got nice jewelry. They got free trips together. So it was, it was all about the money and, of course, his allegiance to Israel. And by the way, he's come out recently. He's talking about being an Israel firster, despite being born in Texas, of course. Anyways, and of course, being educated in the United States, he went to Stanford. Not a dumb guy. But this is who he was. This is his lack of character. This is lack of allegiance to the United States. So he was caught, of course, and Pollard was given a life sentence. But always had backers, in lobbies like the Israeli lobby, of course, and even American politicians. But he rotted away in jail for roughly 30 years. And one of these supporters, to get him out, to release him early from jail, was the current ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. Wow, shocking. Did you know that old Mike Schmuckabee, by the way, said in 2011, on a trip to Israel, he said the following. He said he, referring to Pollard, pled guilty. He served an extraordinary length of time for the crime he was convicted of. It would seem to now be a matter of goodwill and good faith gesture for the president, he's referring to Barry Honolulu, to give clemency and release him. Wow, Mike, wonderful stuff. A complete traitor, someone who jeopardized our national security, giving away our national secrets, intelligence documents. Why do American politicians like Mike Huckabee act so servile when they should be standing up for us? Why would anyone be okay with this? And again, if I would ask you this. If this was a Chinese or North Korean or Mexican spy compromising United States intelligence, would Mike Huckabee say the exact same things and have the same attitudes and sentiments towards this? Obviously not. And again, just for clarity, Pollard was released by the U.S. Parole Commission, which again operates under the Department of Justice. He gets released in 2015. But in 2020, the same board, the same parole commission, removed any restrictions on his parole, allowing him to, again, leave the country. And what did Pollard do? Well, he fled to Israel, where he still lives today. Gets off the plane, and you can see the video footage for this online. He gets off the plane. Once he hits that tarmac, to a red carpet procession, standing there is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He drops and kisses the tarmac. Yeah. Now, some of you are saying, why does this matter, Gervais? Come on, what does this matter? Well, first thing, in recent interviews, he said that Israel should be willing to use nuclear blackmail against the United States and or other countries if its survival is threatened. You can go look this up, too. It's on the Jerusalem Post interview that he did a couple months ago. Absolutely disgraceful. He's discussed using the Samson option, which means Israel could use their nuclear capacities as well if it is abandoned by its allies. And Mike Huckabee, who should be representing the United States in Israel, bolstering our relations, of course, but supporting U.S. involvement in Israel to our benefit, not to their benefit. Well, again, he meets with this creep inside the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. So this meeting between Huckabee wasn't even planned or even put on a schedule. This took place a couple months ago, by the way, in July. Nor did Huckabee ask the State Department for approval to even meet with this treasonous scumbag traitor inside the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. Now, you should be doing things like that. That's a proper protocol. Hey, I'm going to meet with this guy we convicted, who's been in jail for 30 years. Can I meet with him? I mean, this should be something that was done. Of course, he did it behind everybody's back. But it got leaked by somebody probably in the CIA that they met in July of this year. Now, would our Russian ambassador have met with the Rosenbergs in the Soviet Union at the time? Of course not. But Pollard wanted to discuss personal affairs with Huckabee, is what was said. Well, he was one of his biggest supporters, wasn't he? Probably giving a little thank you for that. Here's the problem. Mike Huckabee should be fired from this post indefinitely. He's obviously not representing America's interests and doesn't even have the respect for the United States. I think we all could agree on that. This excuse for an American, again, who's supposed to represent our interests, our policies, maintain diplomacy, and again, represent the United States. Again, if he had any class at all, he'd resign, but we all know he doesn't. But the world sees this too, by the way. They see these things like this when an American politician would break bread with a traitor at the height of the Cold War. How do you think a Russian politician would react to that, or a diplomat for that matter? Or a Chinese diplomat? Would they bring in someone who threatened the well-being of the people of their country and meet with them in private inside their own embassy? Come on. Come on. But again, this is who Huckabee is, and this type of behavior is not that of a serious patriot. Maybe the State Department can relinquish his citizenship, though, and he can, maybe he can stay over there. Maybe they'll accept him as a citizen of Israel. Who knows? Because that's who he represents. By the way, Pollard is running for office now in the Knesset, if you can believe that. He's 71 years old this year. And again, look at this great service he did to Israel. He'll get right in. Don't worry about it. He'll get right in there. He's an ultra-right-wing extremist. And he's talked about using warfare against enemies. Yeah, it's disgraceful. Mike Huckabee needs to be fired. I mean, that's the only thing I can really say to this. There was no purpose or net benefit to even meet with Pollard. So again, why he did this, again, is beyond me. Only they know what they discussed, of course. But again, when you hear Huckabee's past comments about releasing him from jail, he's been in jail for so long. This guy committed treason, Mike. Espionage as an American citizen that gave intelligence to Israel, whom gave it to the Soviet Union. Our greatest ally, right? The Israelis. Again, it makes you shake your head. You can't even figure this out. Now, according to Pollard, the meeting was misinterpreted and used by certain figures, both within the U.S. Embassy and, of course, the Trump administration, to try to remove Huckabee. Yeah, he should be removed. Through and through. I want you to hear what he has to say right now. He's talking about, again, this is his position on a future Palestinian state, which, again, President Trump has allegedly been working towards in this 21-point peace plan between Israel and Gaza. And this is the guy who wants to be in the Knesset. This is what he has to say about things like this.
Now, let's talk about another decision or situation that's emerging this week. The one to declare a Palestinian state, which the UN is supposed to vote on, with some of our arch enemies pitching in and weighing in on that. What would you do if you had some influence, if you were in Knesset or in charge?
What would I advise? What would I recommend? What we have to do is, first of all, declare that Oslo is dead. That's number one. The fact that the PLO never signed the document is something, I mean, it's the worst kept secret I've ever seen. The document actually has no force because the other side never signed it. So leaving that detail aside, number one, Oslo is dead. Number two, we have to take action on the ground that will rule out the creation of this another terror state in our God-given biblical heartland. What are those actions? The actions are to declare sovereignty immediately over the Bekaa, the Jordan River Valley, Yehuda, Shomron, Judea and Samaria, and Gaza. Okay? And at that,
All right, I'm not going to go on with this, but he's basically refuting the existence of a Palestinian state, which President Trump has worked towards. He's worked with many of the Gulf Arab states to get this ceasefire in place. Now, I don't think the ceasefire is holding up. I think we all could agree on that. Both sides seem to have broken any type of agreement with each other. And again, we're seeing people getting killed inside Gaza every single day. Now, of course, I'm not supposed to tell you that, but again, I always tell you the truth. There are people dying every single day still in Gaza. Israel still is not fully removed from the territory as they ought to be. Again, which is again a violation of, UN Charter as well, occupying international areas which they have no control over, yet they've been controlling this area this entire time. Controlling what goes in and out. Controlling food that goes in and out. Bombing it indiscriminately. One thing he mentions in this Jerusalem Post interview, though, it's interesting. And again, he's talking about military action in the area. And he brings up, well, yeah, mowing the lawn. Now, this is a phrase in Israeli context which refers to a military strategy used to manage the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And again, it describes periods of attacks on the Gaza Strip, which is aimed to weaken Palestinian militants and their infrastructure, similar to how one would mow a lawn to maintain it. So again, this strategy involves sharp military operations to control the area without committing a long-term political solution, often resulting in significant civilian casualties. So the idea that they cause, well, there's no such thing as a genocide. That's not happening. It's impossible. Well, look, we have over 67,000 confirmed killed in the area as of right now. And that's not Hamas numbers, by the way. That's, I think, Red Cross numbers, if I'm not mistaken, being reported. But again, can we ignore this? Should we ignore this? That the vast majority of people being killed are women and children? That had absolutely nothing to do with October 7th? Then again, you have Ben Gvir, the same one, who I believe runs their FBI-type agency, that Palestinians don't exist. These people just simply don't exist. Really, well, who the hell are you bombing every day? Who are these people in this area, then? It makes you shake your head about this, the way people talk about them. Like, hey, it's not a big deal. They're barbarians. They're animals. They're goyim, whatever you want to call them. And we're supposed to sit there and go, okay, well, yeah, fine. Hey, whatever you want to do. Hey, whatever you want to do. It's your war. You take care of it. We're funding everything, every bullet, every bomb dropped. And Americans are supposed to not have an opinion about it. Shouldn't we, as patriots who believe in freedom and due process, I hope, say that this is not right? It's not right to indiscriminately kill people. We know it's happening. And we know it's happening because, again, it's being reported every single day. 22, 25. All these numbers are coming in. In fact, since the ceasefire, some 342 people, as of right now, when I last read it, have been killed that we know of. God knows how many people are under the rubble and whatnot, or have died of starvation. But this is a reality we've got to face ourselves with. And at the time we're seeing this in front of our eyes, should I sit here and just shut up about it and not tell you about it? Because I don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers about it. What the hell do I care? Facts are facts. This is what's happening. This is what's being reported. Now, if you can show me people aren't dying, I guess I'd be open to that, of course. But this whole idea that because October 7th happened, that it's okay to just indiscriminately kill people inside the Gaza Strip or the West Bank is completely idiotic. It's not based in any morality. And again, I've seen people come on the mainstream news. Well, it's just collateral damage. Hey, civilians die in war. What can you do? And I say to myself, okay, have you seen any footage? Have you seen that they're just literally shooting at children, walking in the street, blowing up through drone strikes, families in the streets? When men were walking through the Morab corridor to get to one of these final food banks that were in Gaza, shooting at the men that were walking through there, killing people. What, am I supposed to ignore this and not tell you about it? Well, I'm sorry, that's not who I am, and I'm going to tell you about it when I find this out, because we should know about all this. But this is where we are. That it's not even mentioned in our mainstream media anywhere, to be honest with you. It's very, very sad, folks. Very, very sad. The Associated Press talked about the takeaways from President Trump and Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani and their visit they had in the Oval Office over the weekend. It says here, both men got something they want. GOP loses a punching bag. Okay, what is this? It said the two had called each other fascist and communist, but when President Trump and New York City Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani faced reporters in the Oval Office on Friday, they were just two iconoclasts, New York City politicians, who were all smiles. Oh, well, in front of the camera, of course, everybody's always smiles, aren't they? The much-anticipated face-to-face showed how politicians shared love of New York City, and no doubt some political calculus. Could paper over months of insult, both men used a plain-spoken approach tailor-made for the age of social media to make their points, and each left the meeting with something he needed. Here are some of the main takeaways. Well, they said here, the Republicans are losing their main punching bag, at least for now. Wait until he puts these policies in effect. Wait until Mamdani tries to implement free buses, defund the police, all these things. Freezing the rent, free daycare, all this stuff. It's going to fall back on his face. He's already walking back on some of these policies already. He hasn't even been in office yet. And he's going to find out very, very quickly, you need money to do these things. Now, he's proposing to raise the corporate tax rate. He needs the New York State electorate, and of course, the governor, Kathy Hochul, old gargoyle face there, to issue some of these policies so he can have the money to implement free this, free that, free lunch, free this, everything, okay? Everything under the sun. But again, they're saying, Trump has been queuing up for the 2026 campaign, warning that the Democratic Party is going to be overtaken by Mamdani. First of all, that can't happen. He wasn't even born here. He's not going to go much further than maybe Congress, if that. He's not going to be the face of the party, especially if he does a really crappy job. He'll be all smiles. He'll be a spokesperson. Oh, I ran New York City. Right into the ground is where you're going to run it. But he is a communist. Never forget that. But he's got a lot of people behind him. Mostly, again, the younger people in New York City who can't seem to make it. So there you go. There you go. And by the way, if Kathy Hochul gets out of office, you're not going to see him get any of those tax policies by the state put into place, by the way. At all. So we'll see how that all goes. I don't think it's going to be going well. Yep. Bernie Sanders and I agree on much more than people thought, Trump said. Again, I don't know what you would agree with Bernie Sanders. Maybe issues. You could agree with certain issues, but the way they want to solve them are completely asinine. They don't work. That's the problem. Bernie Sanders does say things that are true, but his way of solving it is completely idiotic. It doesn't work. That's the problem with Bernie. Then he's a complete shyster, by the way. Oh, yeah, millionaires and billionaires. Billionaires. Oh, just the billionaires now. Tax. That's all he knows how to say. Tax everybody. It's the only thing him and Robert Reich know how to do. All right, for the past few weeks, Mamdani visits lets Trump talk about affordability. Oh, affordability. I love that word now. We keep hearing it constantly now. Affordability. Everything's going to be affordable now. Everything. Well, here's the problem. If Trump doesn't fix this economy in the next 6 months, things are not going to be looking too good for the general elections in 2026. Just thought I'd bring that up to you. If he can't get behind boosting the economy, bringing relief in form of rent, in form of housing, mortgages, and real estate, in terms of energy, in terms of grocery prices, car payments. By the way, they're at an all-time high right now. I saw this in Fox Business over the weekend. $766 for an average car loan payment. I mean, again, it's almost as much as rent in some regard. It's out of control. But when you have to import things into the country because you're not making them here, because I guess we've ceased to be able to do this, apparently, and you put taxes on them, which are tariffs, and they cost more, that manufacturer has to charge more on the sticker price. I mean, it's just basic common knowledge. And then again, you have the interest rates that are very high right now. All these things factor into why your vehicle is much more expensive now. And we're not moving away from this. We're just doubling down on it. I don't understand it. Now, the one area Trump has done some good in is the gas prices. That's the only thing. But again, the global economy is down, so that's why every time when I talk to you about Brent crude or WTI, what they're producing, the reason they're doing that is because, again, you have the world economies are in recessions. All these countries can't afford it, so they have to bring down the price, so they're pumping more, while demand is staying the same. So you have a higher supply with lower or equal demand from what was before. That's why you're seeing some freedom, and as far as relief in the gas prices you see right now. Yep, he said the president leaned into the message at their Whitehouse meetings, saying he sees his efforts as complimentary. Okay, whatever. Who the hell cares? This is according to the AP, a confidence boost for Mamdani. Yep, he stood there and smiled like a schmuck, like he always. That's all he knows how to do, smile like a schmuck. Oh, yes, I did call the president a fascist. And then he went on over the weekend and said the same thing with Meet the Mess. Yep, Meet the Mess with Kirsten Welker. Oh, yes, I still believe that he's a fascist. Yes, of course. Okay, all right. That's all I know how to do. Fascist. The other one's a communist. Well, he is a communist. He's a self-described communist. That's all he is. The only thing that a democratic socialist can be is a communist. That's it. There's nothing else there. What else is free? Everything. That is communism. And why the government's involved in most of these things he's promising, I don't know. I have no idea. So again, what did we learn from this meeting? Well, in front of the cameras, they're very happy with each other. Okay. They both love New York. Good. I'm glad about it. Let's see you fix it now. Let's see if you can fix it. Something tells me you probably won't do it. Just a thought. All right. This one's a big one. This is in the Wall Street Journal. I just saw this morning. Tyson to close one of the biggest beef processing plants in the United States. So we're talking about grocery prices, right? I love eating red meat. Maybe some of you do. Maybe some of you don't. This affects me. Okay, I like a good steak every week. I like ground beef, burgers. Who doesn't? As long as it's grass-fed and hasn't been injected with everything. But here we have Tyson, America's largest meat supplier, is planning to close one of its largest beef processing plants in Lexington, Nebraska, at a time when a cattle shortage in the United States is squeezing meatpacking companies. Now, this Lexington, Nebraska plant employs roughly 3,000 people and can slaughter up to 5,000 cattle a day. That's a lot. So if we're talking just on grand scale of processing, that's a lot. It's a hell of a lot, by the way. So Tyson, one of the big four meatpacking plants that processes 85% of beef in the United States, close to a major plant, and current cattle supply crunch, meat packers, including Tyson, have been losing hundreds of millions of dollars processing beef because they're of the lowest amount of cattle on U.S. pasture since the 1950s. Now, again, I stop you to say this. It's saying here that they've lost $426 million from its beef business over the past year. That's a lot of money. Tyson said earlier this month that its cattle costs for 2025 fiscal year ended in September rose by nearly $2 billion compared to the prior year. So again, why is the company losing money? They set the prices. That's what it doesn't make any sense to me. They're the ones setting the prices for what they are producing. Now, we can argue that there's less beef coming in. Okay, but that's a hell of a lot of beef to be slaughtering every single day. You're making a lot of money off everything that, and again, the cow doesn't just give you beef. They use they use the skin of the cattle. Yeah, they use everything. They use the, part of the legs for fertilizer. There's so much stuff that can be used for the cow. And there's so many parts of the cow that are used as well. But again, they're talking about low profit margins on raising cattle after the pandemic. You're talking about severe droughts in areas like Mexico. That's where there's less cattle coming in to being slaughtered. So all these things are a problem. And other rising costs prompted ranchers to bring most of their animals to slaughter a couple of years ago and shrink the size of their herds. That's another problem as well. Again, we saw during COVID, people were slaughtering cattle just to slaughter cattle. They were slaughtering pigs. They were grinding down their crop. It made no sense. It made absolutely no sense. But here's the kicker behind all this. Now, obviously, this is a community issue, too, because the size of Lexington is only, I think, like 8,000 people. And this is a big producer and a big employer for people in this small Nebraska town. They're going to be hit by this. But here's the other problem. The 5,000 a head that they're slaughtering a day. Now, I don't know how many days a week they're in operation. Maybe they're in every day of the week. I don't know. But that 5,000 has got to go someplace else now. So where the hell is it going to go? That's the big question you've got to ask yourself. Where is this cattle going to go? And the answer is they're probably going to move it to other Tyson plants somewhere else. That's what it is. And again, it shows you right here. It says here, Tyson said Friday, it is moving its Amarillo, Texas beef plant that can slaughter about 6,000 cattle a day to a single shift, down from 2 shifts a day. So they're going to be cutting down on the amount of beef they're processing. So again, let's think about this. You have supply and demand, folks, right? You're slaughtering all this beef. That's a lot of beef. I'm not going to lie to you. That's a lot of beef to process in a day. You got thousands of workers working on this plant. Good paying jobs too, by the way. And now you're going to cut back. Remember, you control the market. You're Tyson. You're one of the biggest people in this industry, right? Probably one of the biggest packers besides JBS, I'd have to say. So you're controlling a large share of this market. You're closing a plant down, all right? Your beef's got to go someplace else now. Now, you're not going to give it to JBS or Cargill or National Beef. You're going to send it to another Tyson plant. And in that plant, you're going to have to make up for that now. You're still going to set the prices. But again, think about it. Supply and demand. What happens? You're cutting back on the supply you do, right? How much maybe you do per day. So if there's less supply with the same amount of demand, what's going to happen to those prices? Prices are going to go up. They're going to make the price of beef go up, which it already has largely since the last year. We've seen this already. And as a result, even though they're bringing in beef from Argentina, which again makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever, we can do it right here in the United States, you're going to see the price of beef go up as a result of this. This is the end result of all this. The price of beef is going to go up. So yeah, well, we have people come in like, this Nebraska senator saying, the loss of this, the town and the city and everything. They're disappointed. Okay, that's fine. What's the end result of this? You're going to pay more. They're going to jack up the prices now. Tyson's going to do that. Then what's going to happen? Well, JBS is going to follow suit, and Cargill, and National Beef, and any of these small producers as well. They want to stay in business. And who gets screwed in the end? The ranchers, the farmers, the people that actually care for the livestock, raise the livestock, do all this production, which again costs a lot of money, which President Trump should be trying to decrease for our ranchers to incentivize people to get in this business. And again, all you see really is consolidation in this whole business. That's what's happening. That's why you're not having competition. Because you have some people that are so big, just 4 people, 4 companies, I should say, that are extremely big, that are offsetting the price for everybody else, the smaller guys, the local ranchers, the local farmers that maybe slaughter on their own, who are trying to make their way. I get my beef from Nebraska, by the way. I don't get it from Tyson, but I get it from a local beef producer, and they, ship their stuff online, and I get it here where I am in New York now. It's great beef, by the way. But this is what we need to support local. That's what it comes down to. Support local. Because those prices you're going to see at the grocery store now are going to start going up. And they're going to start going up fast. Shrinking herds, cutting down the supply, cutting down how much you butcher per day. They're going to say, well, we're not slaughtering those 5,000, and that, the 5,000 that we're taking, we'll get shifted to here, there, and everywhere else nearby. But that's going to cut down on supply that goes to the grocery stores. And as a result, what happens? The price goes up. So expect that if you're, love steak, maybe you love beef bacon like I do. I don't know. Maybe you like ground burgers, ground beef, whatever it is. Maybe you love beef ribs. I got those too, by the way. They're fantastic. Everything is going to start going up. So understand that in the beef realm. Even though we're flooding the market with Argentinian beef, it's probably not going to do very much. It's probably going to cost us more. All right. Very sad day for that. But thank you to the Wall Street Journal for bringing that up. Gateway Pundit, Senator Whitehouse. I can't stand this guy. Every time I see him, I get upset. And this time is no different. Says he forecasts climate change will crash banks, destroy housing, and end capitalism. My goodness. Does he have any idea how any of that's going to work? Of course not. More fear-mongering? Maybe he should take Bill Gates of hell, maybe his position, and get off this train that seems to be sinking as we speak. No pun intended. But he went to the Senate floor on Thursday with another installment of his long-running up wake-up call, one of his speeches here, this time using nearly every minute to argue that climate change is the root cause of almost every global problem. Now, of course, instead of addressing, the real economic pressures that Americans are facing, high energy costs, rising insurance premiums, the continued fallout from inflation, White House framed climate change as the driving force behind future recessions, collapsing housing markets, destabilized financial systems, and even the potential end of global capitalism. That's amazing to me. Warmer temperatures going to destroy everything? Really? How's it going to happen? Old Sheldon, how's it going to happen? Can you explain that to us since you're apparently a climate scientist all of a sudden? No, he has no idea. He just heard this, of course. Now, his remarks reflected a growing trend within the Democratic Party, turning climate policy into a catch-all explanation for economic risk while ignoring the more immediate failure created by the burdensome regulations and unaffordable energy mandates. So he's not wrong that it does cause things to go up when you have a moronic... Let's go to Gavin Newsom. Let's not waste it. Let's go to Gavin Newsom in California. Gavin Newsom is a schmuck, just like Sheldon Whitehouse. They're both cut from the same type of Democratic cloth, if you will. Gavin Newsom puts all of these mandates on oil producers in the state. That's why you saw 43, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in the early 1980s in California. These refineries. Inside California, 43. Now today there's 11. There's 2 more that are going to be leaving soon. There'll be 9, if I'm not mistaken. These are, again, good-paying jobs. They're going to leave the state. Why? Because Gavin Newsom will let people go out and drill for this oil. And then again, he puts on regulations. He puts on this. He puts on that. It costs more to produce. Why the hell are you going to stay there? Why would you stay there? It doesn't make any sense. And then you have the state income tax, which, again, is the highest in the nation. Why would you stay there? It got so bad they actually had to open up more drilling permits because he's getting his ass kicked on all this. So now all of a sudden climate change is fine. Taking Getty oil money is totally fine with Gavin Newsom. He's soaked in oil. That's what it is. And there's oil in his hair. Look at him. That's why we call him Governor Hair Gel sometimes. But yes, these moronic policies, these regulations, this net zero emissions, right? Instead of using oil, they use windmills. It costs more. Produces less oil. That's why you have running brownouts and blackouts all throughout California. And I know because I lived there. I lived during Gavin Newsom's reign of terror for most of my life. Anyways, or most of his tenure, I should say. Anyways, these bad policies equate to, again, the higher prices, right? Inflation. Then, of course, you don't have much supply, so you charge more per kilowatt hour. What does that cost? You have greater utility bills. It makes things more difficult. What happens when you don't collect as much rainwater when it comes? Like right now, California's getting dumped on with water. And instead of producing more water storage units, collecting that water, maintaining it for times when there is a drought, Gavin Newsom lets it go right back in the ocean. Totally fine with him. In fact, the reservoirs actually got so full a couple years ago, he actually released fresh water back into the ocean. And then they had some ridiculous, in some areas, they wouldn't even collect rainwater because it affected a a sardine in the San Fran Schmucko Bay Area. It makes no sense to me what these idiots do. It makes no sense. It's so stupid. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. But again, this is all in the face of environment and climate change and all this other nonsense. So Whitehouse began recounting his recent trip to a climate conference in Brazil, a summit that the Gateway Pundit reported as a complete failure, much like Sheldon's Whitehouse's tenure in Congress, where he even described himself as the entirety of the U.S. government presence. God, he's an idiot. Okay, so he complained that the Trump administration declined to facilitate his travel, treating the decision as an unprecedented breach of tradition. He then used the anecdote to argue that President Trump does not represent the United States on climate matters, claiming instead that Trump only speaks for fossil fuel donors. Okay, what does that have to do with anything? By the way, they're not fossil fuels, folks. They're not. Anyone that knows anything knows that it doesn't come from fossils or dead plant fossils. So stupid. Maybe someday I'll go into more depth about that with you. But don't be driven away by these idiots. Now, this framing laid the groundwork for White House's central message that the climate change issue and the resistance to climate initiatives is the defining threat to global stability. Actually, I do think, and again, I just by the reasons I just gave you, these climate initiatives are the reason for the downfall of the country. You can only put out a certain amount of emissions every single year. Oh, but China can, but Russia can, but India can, but you can't, United States. You've got to screw your own manufacturing down so that these countries can just pollute. They don't use wet scrubbers on their smokestacks so that more actual carbon monoxide gets in the atmosphere. We don't do that in the United States. And as of late, we've actually been putting out a net less of emissions and pollutions into the atmospheres. Why? Because we have innovation with engines, again, with the smokestacks, what we do. They won't even do this. That's why there's so much pollution in places like China and India. It's disgraceful. It really is. And yet we're committed to this Paris Climate Accord nonsense. So Trump got us out of it again. But Biden got us back in, and we give all this billions of dollars, and everyone else can still continue to pollute. It's moronic in and of itself. The disgraced senator then pivoted to the policy prescriptions he believes are essential. At the top of his list was a global price on carbon enforced, through mechanisms such as the European Union's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, where he praised the EU's climate tariff system. Remember, tariffs are what, folks? They're a tax. And he urged foreign governments to lock arms and protect it from what he characterizes as a future attacks by President Trump. So he wants a carbon tax on you. And he's going to argue about inflation and the economy going down. His argument relied heavily on the idea that the American policy must align with foreign climate frameworks, even when those frameworks rely on tariffs that disadvantage U.S. manufacturers and raise costs for American consumers. This guy is a schmuck. He's always been a schmuck. He'll always be a schmuck in my mind. But, this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people that do anything for, or in the name of, I guess, climate change, which, again, is a stupid idea. Because, again, it's not based in a real reality, folks. The world is not coming to an end in 10 years, 12 years. It's not going to be a frying pan. The Earth goes through warming and cooling phases. It always has. It always will. And that's why they've moved on to climate change, because they can't use anything else. Anywhere else, they get caught in the science, and they can't have that. So when it's really warm out, they say, "Oh, global warming. It's warm here. Oh my God." It's just asinine for anyone that really pays attention to climate stats and, of course, models and what have you. It's really pathetic. Anyways, folks, I hope you enjoyed today's show. Hope you learned a lot from it. Hope you'll share with some friends, like the show, follow the show. I always appreciate it when you do that. And as always, I'll see you here tomorrow on the next Marco Dre Show. Until then, be good, stay busy, and God bless.